And welcome to Impact 2023, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics from race, religion, current events, when we all talk about those from a Christian perspective. And as always, for those of you who have been here before, please feel free to type your questions and your comments into the comment section. This is a conversation, and so you may not just want to hear us talk. You want to put in your 2 cents and your words and your questions as well, and we always welcome that. And as always, we hop right into the topics. As you can see, it's a little bit different format. We have a guest live and in person, which we don't get to do a whole lot. But we have Pastor Martin with us. We appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
All right. And for those of you out here, I'm going to tee up what we're talking about today. And so recently there was an article in NPR, National Public Radio's. They had an article with a gentleman named Russell Moore. And Mr. Moore was a member of the Southern Baptist Convention, a prominent member of the Southern Baptist Convention, and he was, to say it nicely, asked to leave. And this was in the time that of Trump's rising. So it was sort of related to Donald Trump, and it was also related to some sexual allegations going on in the Southern Baptist Conference. And when he was asked to leave, he was able to sit back and reflect on the church and the status of the church and some things of the church. And so what we're going to be able to discuss, not necessarily what he has said and done, but a little bit of what he said and done and the state of the church. And so that's where we are today. And again, as we go into this, we welcome your commentary as well, so that we can address it. And so let me just hop into one of the things that struck me. So Mr. Moore ended up leaving the Southern Baptist Convention. And one of the things that hit hard with me that he said was that one of the problems with the church and why the church is shrinking is because of tribalism. He was saying that we are too separate. Now, the irony of what he said there, he said the solution to bringing the church back is by going not at a major level, but by going in at the local level and talking to people one off here, one off there. And so I will ask you just initially here, do you think, because we all know that the church is getting small. There's been numerous reports, and so the numbers kind of fluctuate, that the church is at the smallest level it's ever been. The belief in God is at the smallest level it's ever been in the United States. Ironically, in 2022, suicide rates was at the highest it's ever been. So if you want to make that correlation there, I usually do. But just wanted to throw that in there. But the church is at the smallest level it's been. And his says his problem is we're too tribal, which means we're too localized. But the solution is we got to get together at the local level. We can't get together at this big convention church level to kind of fix things and get with people. How do you feel about that? Where do you come in on that?
I think that politics and religion has always been on the local level. It has always been primarily influenced by the local and what's been going on in communities. That's why you have certain communities that can be conservative and other communities that can be liberal, other communities that can practice one sect of Christianity, like Catholicism, and then another community can be totally Protestant. Example, when we look at Virginia, for example, Virginia is a Protestant state. But if you go up north, you'll find that Maryland has a lot more Catholicism or Roman Catholic. And so, church has always been within a context of community, localized community. The problem with that is that with the localization, we are now probably becoming more segregated. And because we're becoming more segregated, we're not in conversation with folks who are not like us.
Right. Yeah.
We're in conversation with folks who feel the same thing we feel. And so we don't get a person to challenge us relative to what it is that we're thinking, but then see them in their humanity, see them in their God giftedness, and recognize that what they may feel and what they may believe is not necessarily a threat to me, but it helps to enlarge my understanding of how Christianity ought to play an impact. And so when I read Moore's article, he talked about this whole idea of Southern Baptism being pushed out because one of the problems he saw with the Christianity that was in crisis was that it adopted, if you will, a nationalist perspective,
Right.
a nationalist stance within it. And so you look at that's localized.
Mm-hmm.
That's localized because when you talk Southern Baptist, you're talking primarily what? The South.
Yes.
Okay. And when you're talking about a nationalist, we have to be honest with ourselves and also recognize that when we talk in nationalist perspective, we're talking white nationalist.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking ultimately an idea of supremacy. And so if you're going to say that Christianity is in crisis, it didn't just get into crisis at the rise of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It got into crisis long before. And the problem is that we never listened to the indigenous voices that told us something was wrong with this brand of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I want everybody to understand something. I am a Christian. I am a Baptist minister, but I hold no punches in saying that Christianity, the brand of Christianity that we practice, has been co-opted and hijacked and has been used as a tool to promote supremacist ideology, which means one group over another, and has also been used as a way of keeping groups suppressed. And so when we have to take an honest and hard look at that, because the Christianity that the Christ practiced, as Moore will say in his article, is very much different from the ones that those who were listening to him preach beg to differ. Because in his article, he talked about the fact that some folks said when he was preaching about the Beatitudes, they said, where you get that liberal view from? Where you get that liberal stuff from?
Yes.
That don't work for us. That's weak.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Everybody has always been using religion and the institution of religion for either their good or for someone else's bad.
Yeah. That's a good point. Let's take that spot right there. And so, as you were talking about Moore, what he said was he's talked to numerous pastors, and when they came to the Sermon on the Mount, they would talk about it, and they would talk about turning the other cheek, and the pastors would basically say the same thing. Multiple pastors would say the same thing, which is people would say, "Yeah, what is these liberal talking points you got?" That is calling what Jesus's stance was weak, and then when they explain, I'm quoting what Jesus is saying here in the Word. And instead, they're expecting to hear an apology, like, oh, I'm sorry, bro. But instead, they're hearing, that doesn't work for me. Now, that got me, and then I was like, man, these fools is not Christian. That's all it is. But then I had to sit back and think, how many times have we sat back here and in Sunday school or youth meeting or something like that, someone comes up and says, look, you got to turn the other cheek. And young Johnny comes up and says, my mama said, somebody do something bad to me, I do something bad right back to them.
Yeah.
And your mama is the head of the trustee board. It ain't like I just pull somebody off the street. So as much as so my initial thought is, they're dealing with these crazy people who are in the church but not really being Christian. But in reality, are we all doing the same thing?
So no matter what religion that person's practiced, persons have always had the freedom to pick and choose, to apply what they want, the way they want, and how they want. This is nothing new. If we take a real look at Christianity, what Moore experienced is ultimately what enslaved Africans experienced. They say enslaved Africans and their testimonies that ultimately speak to this, they say, who is this God you're talking about? This God does not want me enslaved. This God does not consider me a second-class citizen. This God does not say that it is my lot. What God is this that you're talking about? Matter of fact, enslaved folks said when white slave masters and preachers would say, the Bible says you ought to be a good slave. You ought to be obedient to your master. You ought to be. Some of the folks said, enslaved folks said, I don't know about that. I can't read the Bible, but I know that God didn't say that. Right. And so we discover, and then on the flip end, you got persons who use the religion to oppress. They apply and they deal with certain terms and certain ideas and ideologies. For example, like, I'm a slave. Well, you ain't gonna find them ever saying they are a slave to anything.
Right. Yeah.
They pick and choose, and so it becomes this idea of, how I'm going to deal with my religion in the world and in the context. And that's why I say that Christianity has oftentimes been hijacked or co-opted, because it has been used by people to promote their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we like it or not, we're in a Christian nation, right, that has ultimately used, watch this, Christianity to promote its agenda. We look at the history of Christianity in the Americas and in Europe, because Europe brought Christianity, the form that we have now today, here, and we find that Christianity was used to justify the enslavement of brown and black bodies. It was used to justify the taking of land away from Native Americans, our brothers and sisters. It was used to justify torture and beating. It was used to justify a number of things, and it's even been used to justify war.
Yeah.
And so when we look at it, we find that, watch this, the country has benefited off of that institution known as religion, known as Christianity. And we have to be a people who are willing to wrestle with this embeddedness of the oppression and ultimately the supremacist and nationalistic tendencies that are within our Christianity. Doesn't mean we don't love Christ. Doesn't mean we ain't going for God.
Right.
But we have to wrestle with the brand of Christianity that we have received, and we have to deal with it in such a way in order to uncover it, as I would say, in order to get back to what it is the Christ is attempting to tell us and attempting to direct us on how to live in this world.
Yeah. It's some funny things here. All right, so we look at Russell,
okay,
and or Mr. Moore, and we look at what he talked about, but yet he conveniently did not hit on the issues of race. That wasn't his agenda. And you look at, so you're going to sit here, you're going to have this whole big Trump debate. You got kicked out of the church for that. And so you're kicked out of the church and you're realizing that people are rejecting the teachings of Christ. But you're not acknowledging, you're acknowledging the fact that they had some sexual issues when it came to the Southern Baptists, but you're not acknowledging the race. So you're going to sit here and you're going to be able to be clear, and I can look at all of these flaws that the Southern Baptist has, but I don't see nothing going on with this race. I don't see anything going on with this hate towards anybody who's different, whether they're coming from South America or different parts of the world. If they're brown and not down, type of situation. You're just ignoring that. It's not that complicated. It's very simple. And you talked about how people are using religion and abusing it for their own purposes. But it's not like the Bible is. It's not like it's not plain. I mean, as complex as it is, it's pretty plain. When you're going over here and you're saying like these people from South America, they don't need to come in here, and it's saying love your neighbor, and it's literally talking about how Jesus was an immigrant, and you're not falling into these foolishness because it's easy. You're falling into this foolishness because that's where you want to go. A pastor does not have to do a lot of work to make up some hate speech out of the Bible, but it's not there. Like if you just read it, you don't see it. So I'm saying all of this, and that's a long-winded way of saying it seems so simple to defend. Is it our fault that we're not defending it against other people who are manipulating it? We all know when we see somebody that walks in, I'll even go to the Catholic level, the Roman Catholic Church. You know the difference between one pope and the next. And you look at one pope, he comes in, he's just talking that mess. And you have another pope comes in, and you're like, oh, well, he believes this for real. So is it our fault for not checking those people who we know, y'all ain't really in this for real?
I think it's hard to check because once again, everything is localized.
Mm.
So how many times do you get to encounter a Southern Baptist preacher
Right.
with nationalist tendencies in your church?
Right. Yeah. Right. Mhm.
And so you don't get a chance to dialogue with that person. You don't get a chance to talk with that person. You don't get a chance to challenge that person.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, most of the time when it comes to religion, folks have stopped growing a long time ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
We've become very concrete and very rigid in our belief. And it is our belief, and there is no other way at all.
Mhm.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, it becomes very much a difficult thing. Example, Southern Baptist 2017. They denounce and repudiate white nationalism. Okay?
Right.
In its annual meeting.
Right.
What the heck does that
Right.
huh?
Right.
Because the reality is that you've been such a major player in the political process of electing presidents
Mm-hmm.
that the agenda you vote on a president based upon what you believe is right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we fail to realize that you vote because it's right and it's good for everybody.
Right.
And so when you got the evangelical portion of the church that is oftentimes used in elections, and Republicans are going after them and Democrats are going after them, they trying to wing and they trying to fight to see who's going to get to who. At the end of the day, look at their voting record.
Mm-hmm.
They will tell you what they believe. They're going to say, we do not believe in abortion, but we do believe in jails.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we gotta fill these jails.
Right.
Somebody's got to have these babies to fill these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to have it. We don't believe in education, equal education for everybody. It is a plethora of things that when we look at it, we see what their agenda is. Bush got voted back in so he could carry out a war.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
That's plain and simple.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But we encouch stuff and we say, oh yeah, I vote for this person because they pro life or pro life. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing you vote for.
Right.
Is that a person is pro life. And we don't necessarily believe, we don't necessarily see or read the scriptures. Now, I'm not getting into pro-life argument, but what I am simply saying is that we use religion constantly to promote our own interests.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that our Christianity becomes diluted and co-opted. I'll give you a primary example. Who is the crown in Southern Baptist and in white evangelical circles? Billy Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Graham says, my greatest regret is that I did not march with King. Dr. Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a moment. The crown jewel did not march or walk with King, but yet he advised presidents. What do you think his advice to the presidents were?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You get to see later on when you're older, oh, I should have done this.
Uh-huh.
But at the time, what is your advice? What is your speaking to presidents? You advised 3 or 4 different presidents. You were an advisor to them. What is the advice? Because you can't see the supremacy within oneself if you're not in conversation with the people who can tell you how it works in your life. And so when you look at it, because religion is localized, you don't get to have those conversations where somebody can say, do you see how what you believe, do you see how what you say, how that impacts somebody?
Right. Mm.
how that messes somebody's life up, how that makes somebody's life that much more difficult. Ain't we all struggling just to raise our children?
Yeah.
Ain't we all struggling just to have a little bit of peace in this world and to make it and to have a decent quality of life?
And why should we have that? That's the part that blows my mind. And you've seen it. Why do I have to tell you that? Like, why are you such in your own way that I got to tell you that this affects other people that you can't see necessarily?
Because I've never been trained to see you.
Okay.
I've been trained to know you there,
Mm-hmm.
but I've not been trained to see you as I see me.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're not on par or equal with me, guess what? And I don't see it that way. I just function that way because I grew up in a localized level. And so, I live this way. I operate this way. I preach this way. I worship this way.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because that's all I know.
Yeah.
I have been conditioned. Example, Neo in the Matrix.
Uh-huh.
Anybody seen the movie The Matrix with Neo in it? The Matrix ultimately is a false reality, a made-up reality
Mm-hmm.
that institutions have made up, and they call it in the movie, it's a computer program, but it's a reality that everybody's living in, and they don't even know they're living in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in these realities. I.e., example, who told you Gucci was worth $1,000?
Right.
Who told you that a Rolls Royce was worth $100,000? Who put the price tag and told you that this was worth that and that was worth this?
Mm-hmm.
Who told you that you were nobody if you didn't have a certain pair of shoes on your feet, or you didn't have a certain type of watch on your arm, or you didn't or you weren't in this type of church, or you didn't have this type of education? Who told you what it was? That is ultimately the matrix, or that is the life in which we live, where we live in ultimately a false reality.
Yeah.
And we're unable to see past that reality because we're so comfortable in it. Yeah. And so in the Matrix, you remember the guy who wants to come out and he wants to turn in Morpheus in them, and he says, "I know this steak isn't real, but it sure tastes good."
Yeah. You want to live in that false?
You want to live in that false reality
because it's good for you.
Everybody, every believer, and every Christian knows what: naked I came in, naked I'm going out. We all know that the love of money is the root of all evil. But guess what? We sure strive for stuff.
That's so true.
Because the culture teaches us. And so we become more culture driven than Christ driven. That old book by Reinhold Niebuhr, Christ Against Culture, Christ Over Culture, Christ in Culture. We're wrestling constantly, and culture begins to win because that's what we do every day.
Yeah.
That's what we're inundated with every day.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm gonna hit some of these comments. Isn't Christian nationalism, particularly as put forth by whites, more about worshiping political and societal power? So Christianity is only used to justify their position. God is with us, and God is okay with what we do. And so, you're just sitting there. So, Christian nationalism is just to justify the way that you want to live. How do you?
I think that when you talk Christian nationalism, if you unpack it and you take a real good look at it, it's not a Christianity that just wants to impact the national scope of things. It is a Christianity that is embedded with white supremacy.
Uh-huh.
And it seeks to keep a certain way of life going. Have we not figured that the majority of evangelicals are South? What lost the war
right
between the North and the South?
Right.
We not figured out that those tendencies, i.e., example, why is it that right now in Florida we got problems with education? Mm-hmm. Mr. DeSantis is making a war against critical race theory in schools.
Yeah.
on the college level? Have we not figured out why Texas is in the position it's in with its governors and all of those senators? Have we not figured out and come to some idea and some understanding about where everybody's got to have a gun? Everybody, we got gun rights. We want to do this, and this. That where that is bred and where that comes from. It comes from ultimately a supremacy that believes in having certain things to feel comfortable in order to help in case, God forbid, something happens. And just like Alabama, just this past week, where them folks went down there and beat up that security guard, and then folk come swimming in the water, black folk, and things get crazy and things get wild, and some folks, white supremacists, are looking at it saying, "See, I told you, God, this is ours. This is ours." And we don't talk about the manifest destiny that pressed Eurocentric individuals to come to America. The manifest destiny that they use from the biblical text that ultimately stated that just like Abraham and the children of Israel are going to the promised land, this is the promised land. And we're going to take it. And anyone that's in our way, anyone that's got any problems, we got to move them out the way. Native Americans are on reservations. We got to move them out the way.
Yeah.
And so we find it's embedded within it. And Mr. Moore, my contention with him is Christianity ain't in crisis just because of 2017 or just because of some sex scandals. Christianity's been in crisis long before then. We just don't listen to those indigenous voices that have been telling you something is wrong with this belief system. Something is wrong with this religion. Jesus is good, but Jesus does not walk around with a machine gun and saying, "I shoot you in the name of the Lord." It doesn't happen that way. Jesus doesn't walk around and take more food off the landscape than necessary. And we've got to begin to wrestle with this idea and this ideology that culture has placed upon and co-opted our Christianity and our beloved Christ and our religion. And we've got to wrestle with it, and we've got to take it back.
So who do we put this on? Are we going to put this on the leaders who are the pastors who are giving you the word and who are deciding that they want to manipulate it for their purposes and then giving it to you? Or are we going to put this on the members? Because this isn't the 1400s. We can read, It's not that you can interpret everything, and we need our religious leaders to definitely give it to us. But you can tell when something ain't right. I mean, you sitting there telling me all this about pro-life. It ain't in the Bible nowhere. So it should not be the dominant factor and force in all my decision making because it's not even in the Bible. And as people who've been on the show know, abortion was going on before Christ. So if you don't have an understanding of what that is, if it was so impactful, then it would have been. If it's so important that it should be the number one thing, then I think it would have been in there. But so who do you put that on? Is it more on the leadership that we just have some leaders who really need to be checked and moved out of the way or whatever, or is it on you? You in a bad church. You got those itchy ears and you're just trying to listen to what's sweet, and it's your responsibility not to be going up under these pastors who aren't preaching the word. They're just preaching what they want to preach. Who's it?
I'm going to say that it's on both, but it's on both because we do not have prophetic leadership. Not the prophet who tells the future, tells you you're going to get a car. If you sold into this tonight and give $1,000, you're going to get a brand new house and the job of your dreams. No, not that. That's a lie. That's not even true. I'm talking the true prophetic office that we find in Old Testament and New Testament scriptures. All of the prophets, are ones who call the nation into accountability. The last great prophet we had was Dr. Martin Luther King, who challenged the nation. We've got to begin to accept and to receive that all from that office of the prophetic that challenges us on what we consider right or our behavior that we're doing, because you need that prophet to tell you this is not right. Israel is always called into account in the Old Testament. Israel never gets that doggone thing right. They never get it right. It is the prophet who constantly shows up time and time. Look at Isaiah, look at Jeremiah, look at Amos, look at all of them. Look at the prophets. And then, hey, Jesus said there ain't nothing greater than John the Baptist. And we look at John the Baptist, we don't even call John a prophet. But John the Baptist is a prophet because he calls into account the powers to be. And he says, what you're doing is not right. And it ultimately costs him his head. And we've got to be, and it's not just the moral stuff that we deem needs to be discussed. Oh, gays. Oh, homosexuality. Oh, pedophilia in the church. That's the easy stuff you can point out. Can you look deep within yourself and point out the fact that while you're looking at television, you've said some words about some particular people who may not be of your ethnic background? Even Paul has to deal with this issue of acceptance through cultural lines and racism. The institution and the engrafting of the Gentiles into the church is an issue of acceptance and tolerance. But we don't see it as that because we're not taught to read the Bible that way. But Paul is saying, no, y'all not going to come around and y'all not going to tell these folk now, all of a sudden they got to be circumcised. All of a sudden they got to do this. All they got to do this. They got to change and they got to adapt all the way fully to your culture. No, they got some things. What we need to do is make sure that they got Christ in their heart and that they accept the Christ and that God is number one in their life, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Paul says they can't walk around with idols because they got only one true living and eternal God. But we don't expect them to be circumcised at the same time because that is not their culture and that is not their norm. That is a Jewish norm. And so we look at that and we don't read the Bible that way because we taught to read it by way of our Sunday school way and the way in which the church has taught us, which is to paint over the issue and not really deal with the issue. And so that becomes a struggle within the person because we don't have the lenses to be able to see. And we need the prophet to do that.
Right. That's. I think that's an excellent move. That's an excellent.
The prophet challenges the priests, and the prophet challenges the people, and the prophet challenges the ruling class, the government.
And that's. I think it's out of order.
Yeah. We killed prophet.
Yeah, you're right.
We made it unpopular, and we made it, and we castrate, and we castigate the prophets. You know, and we don't give that ear, and that's why certain prophets went through so much in order to make their case be known, and it's nothing new.
Yeah. For
them to be hung up, strung up, killed. Who wants to be a prophet? You know, death threats, people running to kill you, people don't like you, and, people dropping you in the pit like boy Jeremiah, and he still says it's like fire shut up in my bones. I still got to say something.
We're going to jump on this comment. Can the powers that be really afford to have people think? They need to control what people think and to what they are exposed.
Absolutely. Because if I can minimize what you think about and what you see and minimize what you will call into question, then ultimately I keep you in line with my step and with what it is that I want to do. Was it behavioral family systems theory? You know, they say that the cow that gets, you know, a group of herd of cows, they're by the electrical fence, and one gets shot, and all the other cows jump. They ain't get shot, but they jump by the reaction of the other one. So what they're saying is that everybody learns their lesson by what happens to the one.
Yeah.
And so now that says, oh, I saw what happened to them. I ain't going that way.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna think that way.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not, you know, oh no, they done called him crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not for the nation. He's not for our country. If Jesus Christ showed up now,
right, they
would probably try to kill him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Castigate him, push him off.
I don't know. I mean, it was clear, you know, through what Moore said. Half of our people, we're gonna be sitting back. We can be like, no, you can't listen to that crazy dude. He's soft. And then the other people, they gonna be sitting back. Well, we can't listen to him. He weak. Or you can't listen to him. He likes Mexicans. Like that's the ignorant way that we would treat Jesus right now. Like, you're right. It's ridiculous. But here's one. Another comment: has the church become a place where people are attacked and not a place where people are attracted? A guy came by here the other day, and he was telling me how he knows about Love and Down. I'm like, oh, great. And he was quote. But then he went off on this tangent. He was telling me about, he was like, hey, you know all the gays and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, man, you quoting all this good stuff, and you hitting me. I need you to start quoting me some Jesus. How much hate was Jesus trying to put out, and how much love was he trying to put out? Because all I hear you talk about is what everybody's supposed to not do. And that judgment is supposed to be reserved for God. What we doing? You sound like you're being a hater out here. You're attacking. And he was like, yeah, you're right. I'm supposed to be nicer. I'm supposed to be bringing people in. I'm like, ain't nobody coming in with the way you talk. That's to this comment here. Are we doing too much hating? And to just keep it in the commentaries, are we doing too much hating?
I think that when you look, I think on the local level, there is a ton of unacceptance. Because remember, when you localize, you become what? Familiar with this group. And you don't want anyone infiltrating your group.
Right. Because
now that changes the group. So if we are all black and we love our fried chicken, don't infiltrate our group now and bring in baked chicken. Not gonna work. Who are you to come in here and change this?
Right.
And that's a playful way of looking at it. But when we look at it honestly, what we're dealing with is because it has become sectioned off and segregated. You know, and church is still one of the most segregated. We talk this multicultural church stuff all day long. That's 1-2% out of the whole darn nation. Yeah. Okay, that are really multicultural. Right. And and those who claim to be multicultural, I'd love to see your staff.
Right. All the leadership looks like
I'd love to see all your staff. Yeah. Because leadership almost look one way. We got all these flags flying around, and we international, and we do this and we do that. Yeah. But I want to see the churches that are responding right now to Haiti.
Yeah.
And that Haiti's in the position it's in because back when those Africans ran that French out of there, guess what? They got mad and cut Haiti out of the political world system economically. So now Haiti is impoverished and Haiti is poor. And now, oh yeah, we're going to send humanitarian aid over there and we're going to help them out. But that does nothing for the overall projection and long-term stability of Haiti. And Haiti has something to offer the world. But what's on the backside of Haiti? Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great tourist destination that is. Oh, the folks over there are so beautiful in Dominican Republic. You got to go over there. The beaches are nice, white sand beaches, blue water. But Haiti, which is right on the back door of it,
yeah,
no, don't nobody want to go there. Don't go. That's the. Why not make Haiti a travel destination? Why not make it a wonderful place for folks to go and visit? Why not work with the government there to make it something, or the rice that they're able to produce, or the goods that they're able to put out into the world? I mean, shoot, we buying and selling arms and everything all over the place. Why can't we?
Right.
But it's because of who they are.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. No, that you know, that's an awesome point when you sit back and you really look at that. You're right. From one spot to another, not even, you know, the land isn't even different.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, so what's the difference? Why do we choose? Why are we picking and choosing this? Why are we picking and choosing these people? How come your skin is just a little bit darker and you the ones we not picking? You know, that's great. We have gone way past our time for Black folks make money and might make some money. You're right. You send that money there, and they, you know, I think people have learned their lesson a little bit with Black folks too. You get a wrong one money. You give Tyler Perry some money, and you see what happens. You know, I'm gonna get my own studio and stuff like that. But you get a wrong one of us some money, we're gonna end up helping out. All of us are not gonna just act foolish with our money, keep it to ourselves. Some of us might actually put it back in our community.
Yeah.
So that's the prayer. Well, we've gone past our time. This has been a great conversation, but I want to ask you just one more question. Because I feel like as much as I enjoyed listening to, or not listening to, reading what he talked about, I think there's a lot to be desired there. I think he still needs to do a lot of soul searching and figure out what's going on. At the end of the day, you're not Southern Baptist, but you're still Southern Baptist in the ways of, I'm taking a lot of these negative ideas from Southern Baptist and I'm keeping them with me. So I ask you, the tribalism, the separation, is it our job then as Christians to get together, to go out and meet with other Christians, to kind of break down these walls? You know, time to time you used to have where you'd have we got this church that's white and this church that's Black and we're going to worship together. We're going to have this church that's Black and Hispanic, we're going to worship. Is it our job? Is that what we need to do? Do we need to break down this tribalism? We need to break down this localism? Do we need to go out on these travel tours and meet? Like how do we do that?
I think that, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. I've seen so much quote unquote partnership that was good on the surface, but did nothing to the inward.
Right.
You know, Black and white churches coming to meet with one another once or twice a year, worship together, you know, and there was a wonderful worship, but nothing changes in terms of our ideology or our theology, mm-hmm. Or our belief system. And so, you know, I would say that if you're going to do that, you need to be with folks that are going to open themselves up to the possibilities, open themselves up to the wrestling, mm-hmm. open themselves up to what it is that God is attempting to try and do, because we've made Christianity once again concrete when Christianity was always very much fluid and moving. Mm-hmm. And when you look at what Christ left, you know, there was a build upon it. And then we got to a place where we said, that's enough. We said, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Christ ain't finished. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Spirit ain't finished.
Right.
You know, and we've got to allow that continued development, because, mind you, remember, Christianity, you know, was not Jesus's religion.
Right.
Jesus went to the synagogue, not to the church.
Mm-hmm.
He went where there were other Jewish folk.
Right.
And I think in the end, we have to go to where we can be refueled, where we can be blessed. But we also have to, I think that those dynamics don't come necessarily in the church per se. It comes through our relationships that we have outside of the church, on our jobs, the people we meet in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
We do some food pickups and things of that nature. And,
Right.
One lady, she just throws the cart down the ramp. Food comes out all over the place. What the world is going on here? This has never happened. You ain't. Next time, food, bam! No. I said, hold on, time out. Wait a minute. This is food that people are going to eat. You just throw it on the ground. What the heck is that? What is going on? These are people like you. Did it change? No. I had to go to the manager to get the change.
Yeah.
So I think that it becomes, it's a gentle walk. I don't know, to be honest with you, if it's supposed to.
Mm.
I think that some things will ultimately have to kill.
Yeah.
And may have to die. And I think that's what white evangelicals at this moment are really wrestling with,
Mm-hmm.
is the death of their Christianity.
Yeah.
Is the death of what they consider their way of life that Christianity provided, when in all actuality, what the way in which they lived their life, that Christianity, that brand of Christianity got them that, but the Christ did not authorize.
That's that. Ooh, that's a tough one. That is funny. If we had more time, we would go down the path on that one. When the disciples complained about a group who were not a part of them, but healing in the name of Jesus, he said, "Leave them alone. They are not against us." That's a good point. You are talking about another group, even though they weren't. Yeah. That hits on to the. It hits back. All right, we are past that time, way past that time. I'll say this to anybody who's watching this, whether you're doing it live or you're doing it not live, watch it again. There were some jewels dropped here that I don't think necessarily you can fully take in watching it live. And I think you're gonna have to go back again and look at it again. I'm gonna have to go back again and look at it again. And I think one of the things that you said that hit me and struck me is, Jesus sat back and said, "Greater works you will do." And what you were saying about the fluidity of Christianity and about the work that we do, we really need to evaluate, what does that mean? What greater works are we going to do? And that's not just the actions of, Jesus fed 5,000, we're going to feed 20,000. No. What else are we going to do here?
Mm-hmm.
What growth do we need to have here or do here? And I think you really hit me on that one of, again, greater works. We need to figure out what that definition is going to be for us. Ain't no point in you being here and you just being a Christian. You need to figure out how to do the extension that Jesus told us to do.
And that deals with the wrestling of our belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And really going in and going hard. And I know that sometimes people listening here, you throw out, you're attacking Christianity, I am attacking this brand of Christianity that has been hijacked, co-opted, and has been transformed and influenced to be used as a tool of oppression against one group and a tool for supremacy of another group.
Right.
And what I am ultimately saying is we got to wrestle with our belief, because our belief influences our action.
Yeah.
And if we never deal with our belief, then our action will always continue to be that what it is. You don't have to tell me what you believe. Mm-hmm. I see what you believe by what you do. And if you're just going to say to me that you believe that God is a gracious, kind, and loving and charitable God, and you just want to come out and you want to give meals out on Thanksgiving, and you want to give some baskets out on Christmas, and you want to give some bikes out, but yet the killing in the community never stops. You never target or challenge that. You never deal with the problem of poverty. You never deal with the issue of healthcare disparities. You never deal. Oh, don't tell me you're going to sit up here and say, oh, God is no. I know what you believe by what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're covering up pedophilia, you've told me what you believe. Now, just because you got caught, you got to come out with a statement against it.
Right.
No. What you believe in is protecting your own. And protecting the shield, even against the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when you got youth pastors molesting children and you're willing to protect it and sweep it under the carpet, just like you're talking about even the Catholic Church, if you got priests that are molesting and you're willing to cover it up based upon the fact that you need to protect the shield, you need to protect the mind, you need to protect the institution, what you've already said is, we don't give a damn about the vulnerable or the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to tell me, I see it. And that becomes our struggle.
Right.
Because we're in a place where we're trying to protect what we have become accustomed to. And my suggestion is what we become accustomed to, we need to shed in order to find out what it really is like to walk with Christ.
What do we protect? We don't need to protect Christianity. We don't need to protect Christ. He don't need to protect him. So we must be protecting ourselves.
Protecting ourselves.
Right. Our vulnerabilities. Yeah. Ooh.
Because we don't want to change. We don't want to deal with the truth about who we are.
Yeah.
That we're a nation that consumes too much. We're a nation that lives ultimately on the flesh and on the desires of the flesh. We're a nation that does not seek ye first the kingdom of God. We're a nation that has put God on the back burner. God ain't number one. We're a nation that loves prosperity, and that means prosperity at any cost. Going to war for it, making slaves to get what we want. And the rebuttal will be, that's the way of the world. Do you want to be in last place or you want to be in first place? And Jesus says, there is another kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is like this. It's very much different from the world in which you live in.
Yeah.
It's different from the world in which you exist. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Here came some men to go to work. And the man in the vineyard said, I'll pay you this day's wage. Then some other men came. He said, I'll pay you the same wage I paid the first guys. Later in the day, some other men came. He said, I'll pay you the same wage. At the end of the day, when he's giving out the wages, the ones that came early in the morning said, how in the world did the ones that came late, how did they get the same wage we got? Keeper said, this is mine to do with. What I want to do with.
Yeah.
This is not the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, what we have now. It is very much different.
And we got one last comment. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
Amen.
Right on there.
Yep.
Look, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Everybody who's been on here, a lot to think about. A lot to really think about and mull over. we got some responsibilities there. And what you said, some self-reflecting needs to be going on. All of us need to kind of, as much as I disagree with some of the stuff that Moore says or used to believe, what he did do right is that he's doing some reflection. And I think all of us need to do that reflection, especially when you're sitting back and you're talking about not only in our bubble, my bubble, what Christianity is, but also in the greater good of what we've turned Christianity into.
He's in the embryonic stage.
Yeah.
Of this reflection.
Yeah.
And I think that as he is further ostracized, he'll find himself not only reflecting, but possibly looking at other scholars and other writers who have written concerning this matter. And it may help him to come to some better understanding and revelation on where he was, but also on where he can be.
Yeah.
Where he needs to be to find that, and I salute him on on doing making the jump, so to speak,
Right.
And consider him I think a colleague in the struggle.
Yeah.
But the crisis did not begin with Trump. It was long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. You on that. You on that. All right. Well, I again, sorry, we're past our time, but it was a great conversation. This is what we need. This is what we need. So again, to all of those, thank you for joining us for Impact 2023. Join us on Thursdays, Thursday, same place, YouTube, Facebook, for Bible study. Also on Sundays at 10 o'clock, same place. And then every week, same place, same time. Thank you again, Pastor.
Thank you.
Appreciate your thoughts. And to everybody, have a good one.